Hi, and welcome to the latest instalment of the Daily Records In Conversation. My name is Scott Burns, and today I'm joined by a special guest in that of In Conversation. Today we are with the Dundee technical manager, David Longwell. David, thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Just busy as always, but all good. Always good after getting a result of the weekend, so now we're all good today.
Thanks for giving us some time in your busy schedule. Well, I suppose you spoke about the weekend there. You had a fine victory away to Aberdeen. The first time Dundee fans have had 3 points to celebrate, or 2 points to celebrate, 3 points to celebrate at Pittodrie in 22 years. It was a long time in the coming, but I suppose it was worth the wait.
Oh, it was brilliant, to be fair. I think, to be fair to the fans, there's been a couple of week games, obviously, like the Derby and that. It's just great when you see them when they put a lot of money into travelling and a lot of money into going to games. It's just really good that the players can actually repay that at times, you know. Obviously, they try and win every game, but it doesn't always work that way. I think the manager, as he put in the press, he loves to give them the stats. Like, there's been so many stats this year, and I think it's a really good kind of motivation psychologically for our players to kind of reach, and it's another record that we've managed to kind of break in regards. Like, it's been a long time since we beat them up there, and after a difficult start, we didn't start as well as what we wanted to, but I thought, in fairness, once the game settled about 15 minutes and we started to do the things that we'd worked on, they definitely deserved to get the win at the end of the day. So it was really pleasing, and just the connection with the supporters when Ethan scores that winner was incredible. You know, just Simon's reaction, and just for the fans, some of the videos I've seen were hilarious. Just how much it means to the supporters. So it's great for us to see that. You know, it's been a difficult season at times, particularly the way it started, and you need your supporters behind you. And I think moments like that just gives them that little bit of reward for the money they put into games and the travel they do. So it was really good. It was really positive.
I mean, as you say, it was a slow start at Pittodrie, but once you got going, I mean, certainly attacking sense, you did really well. And then you obviously get yourselves ahead 2-1. You're playing with the extra man, and then suddenly Kevin Nisbet hits a worldie of a free kick. You're thinking, oh no, what can we do here? But then again, Ethan Hamilton's goal just surpasses that one. What a strike.
Oh, it's incredible for Ethan, to be fair. And he's got that, you know, he obviously did it against Celtic before. I've known Ethan, because when I was at Shrewsbury, he played at Accrington back in the day before he went to Lincoln. And he's got that potential of a bit of fun with him at times, saying that he's got to do it up here, because he's definitely got it in his locker. It's funny, like even the boy Callum Jones is saying that to him all the time in training. He's always trying to shoot and always misses. But I'd rather he misses in training than scores in games if he's going to do that. I mean, it's incredible. He's been as the manager said, he's been a great signing for us. I think when we looked in the summer, and I just noticed that he hadn't started the games at Lincoln, and made an inquiry about him, because I know the type he is. He's got desire and hunger. I just know he would fit into the Premier League perfectly, and he's done that, to be fair to the boys, day in, day out. He's got that desire and hunger, and the fact that he's obviously moved around a couple of positions, he was playing more of an attacking one. In fairness to the manager, moved him into a 6, and he's actually just went from strength to strength. And adding the goals, a goal like that, I mean, if that's not goal of the season, I don't know what will be. There was some great strikes at the weekend, as you say, Nisbet's free kick, but Ethan has got to top it off. I mean, it was incredible. Goalie never moved. It's if he can do a few more of them, we'd be delighted. But I'm just happy for him, because he's such a great lad. His desire and hunger in games, as I said, is incredible. And to now get a goal like that to win a game, I think was really special for him.
Did he score a few down south?
He did when he was at Accrington, because when I was at Shrewsbury, and then I always remember Ethan, because he came from Hutchie Vale, if you remember, back in the day, and went to Man United. And we did analysis on him when I was at Shrewsbury first team, and he's got that in his locker that he can definitely score. So there's a number of aspects that I wanted to bring him into Dundee because of what he gives, and he has got a goal in him. It just took a bit of time to get there, but I'm just pleased to see that he's actually showing what he can do, because I see some of the boys give him a wee bit of hard time at training because he doesn't hit the target enough, but he's definitely, and I say that to people, he's definitely got it there. I've seen it myself when I was down south, and another reason why I wanted to bring him in here, but that goal was incredible, to be fair. So it was really pleasing to see, you know.
In terms of Ethan, though, I mean, he's fitted in well. He's hit the ground running, and he's got a bit of stature on the pitch. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, but you can also see his mentality, as you say, he spoke about before. He's at Man United, and that he does the right things, doesn't he? And sort of leads by example.
Oh, he's incredible. Again, it's funny how, like in football, I said that it's not to Managerial, like, there's players that when I was down south, and he's the same. Like, if you're watching games and you just always remember certain ones, and you'll always track them and always monitor them, and he's one of them that I always liked. Obviously, we got his move to Lincoln, and then I say we just were doing a wee bit of tracking on him in the summer, and as you noticed that he hadn't been playing, we made him inquiry at Lincoln because Ethan's a guy that needs to be starting games of football. And again, it's just at that point at Lincoln, there was a wee bit of other players were, in their opinion, were ahead of him. But I say we had a really good connection with Jez George, who's the director of football there. And we managed to get a deal done with him, which I thought was great for us and great for Ethan. And he's been a great signing. You know, every game he's been available, he started. And yeah, he's so robust in what he gives day out, day out. He's just a winner. You know, even in Friday, we did a small set of games on a Friday. And in the first set of games, I think his team had lost, and then he won every game after it because he's so hungry to do well. And that winning mentality is what you want in your team. And I think he showed that in the game at the weekend again, just by scoring that goal. But just his all-round hunger to compete. You know, he's brave in and out of possession. So, you know, it's just, and he's a great age as well. Still, you know, he's only 27. And I say we put him on a 3-year contract in the summer when we get the chance to sign him. So he's been a really good signing, I think, you know, and hopefully he can continue to do that the rest of the season and the next season.
Well, as you say, he was the one that helped you break that Aberdeen record. You've, as you mentioned before, you've broken a few this year. 37 years since the last home win against Celtic.
Yeah.
27 years, I think, since back-to-back wins against Dundee United at Tannadice.
Yeah.
9 years since your last one at Kelly. First point at Ibrox, and I'm just like this now. 21 years. So what is it? Why is it all clicking this season in terms of these runs?
I think, to be fair, I mean, it was like quite documented start. It was a really difficult start for our season with such a turnover of players and losing such good players. The start of the season was a little bit tricky, but we managed to work really hard. I mean, definitely we've had to change the recruitment because we just felt there was an area that had to be improved. And I said in January we've improved it again, but in the summer it was a case of Gordon using his contacts, Steven using his contacts, myself using my contacts to try and bring players in. And like, if you look at ones like Tony Egan coming in, the manager brought Ash Hay for Brentford. Gordon was instrumental in getting Cam Congreve in. I worked really hard with Ethan Hamilton, Joe Wesley, and I think the signings that have come in top of, like you've got guys like Jan that signed and so on and so forth. I just think at the start it was a little bit difficult with the group to try and have that strength and depth. But once we got those players in, I think what the manager's been very clever at doing is using these stats to try and motivate the players. As simple as it may seem, but I think he's been very clever at just like in certain games saying, look, Dundee haven't won in this amount of time, and it just gives them an extra bit of motivation, I think, that they can go and actually do something that people might talk about, and that's what's happened. And it's every time he's done that, it's actually worked, you know. It's just unfortunate. The Celtic game in the Cup, when we probably deserved to go through, that's the only one that we didn't get right in regard to the stats he's put out there. But in fairness, every other stat that he's put there, even the one at the weekend with Aberdeen, it's came to fruition, you know. So I think he's maybe got psychic powers possibly, I don't know. But it's he's definitely used it in a really good way in the meetings that we have with the lads. And then I think the boys have took it on board and just gives them an extra 5%, 10% motivation to go and try and win. And they've done that in a lot of the games. But again, listen, let any deal say that. You got to always, it's down to the players. They can be tactically set up, they can be given understanding, but they've got to go out and cross that line and do it, you know. And I think that there's so many games you've got to commend them so much about how they went about their business. And granted, it's been frustrating sometimes for the fans that we haven't got as many results as we want, but I definitely think they'll see there's definitely been a progression, there's been a development, which is a big part of what the club want. I think when John and Gordon asked me to come in, and then when Steven came in as well, it was very much on we want to win, but we still want to develop. And I think that's definitely there to be seen, that what the managers look to try and do is win games, but also develop players at the same time. And I see that with all the players that we've got in the group, they're definitely improving, which is then helping the performances, which helps us win. So all these little stats that the manager throws out there when players are getting better and taking things on, I think that helps us to win, which the more we can do that, the better.
David, you spoke about, obviously it was a difficult start. I mean, in fairness to the head coach, Mr. Pressley, he came in and he was behind the eight ball a lot. I mean, a lot of the fans probably, it wasn't the appointment a lot of the fans were wanting, and there was a bit of a backlash at the start. Steven's obviously an experienced coach. He's done well. He's managed through it. But you can see a connection there now. I mean, certainly after the Celtic game, after the Aberdeen game, you see a connection there now. The fans are now buying into. You can see the progress and what he's trying to do.
You broke up there at the end, Scott. Sorry.
You can see just. You mean in terms of Steven obviously. You can. I think the fans now see the progress the team's making and the job he's doing. So I think along with the rest of the coaching team.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one of the things the manager's got that he's very calm, and I think no matter if you win, lose or draw, he remains very calm, and I think that's really important for the players. I think the players really like that. I mean, to be fair, at the weekend he did at half time because we didn't do the things exactly as we'd talked about at the start of the game Saturday, because we knew that Aberdeen would really come after us. Because myself, Scott Patterson, went to the game against Motherwell, and they were really aggressive. And we said, look, you need to try and beat that press. And we didn't really do that. But the way that the manager does it, he's very firm, but he's very fair and he's very calm. And I think that's been right the way through. But the win, lose or draw, I think he's kept a very, very similar kind of demeanour and manner, which I think the players respect. And I think that's a big part of why we've done well, because he's not panicked. There's been so much work done, like from a day-to-day basis. Like when one of the things that Gordon and John had said, as I said earlier, was how can we develop players as well as win games of football. And I think when you look at a lot of the design at training, there's a lot of unit work done that the manager implemented. So we break up into groups a lot just to try and really work. Like Scott Patterson works a lot with the defenders. Barry Nicholson works a lot of the midfielders. I work a lot with the strikers. And it's really to try and improve these little bits from a day-to-day, week-to-week basis that's going to help. And I think you can see that. So I think there's been a real buy-in for the players because they can see what's going on. On top of that, the manager did a lot of getting the defensive work right initially to then give us that platform to really go and attack. And I think that you can see that. So I think there's been so much work done and there's been such good support for Gordon and for John, because that was the ideology they wanted to get to. And I know at the start the fans would have been a little bit unsure, because if you don't win games of football, it doesn't matter who you are, fans are not going to be happy. But there was a process to get through. There was an understanding we had to improve recruitment, and we still need to improve recruitment. I brought Gary Piggott in January. We have a view that we can improve it so we can support Billy Kirkwood and try and drive our recruitment to be of a better level again. So we're under no illusions that we've got to keep improving that, which we're trying to do. Hence why we managed to pick up a couple of really good signings in January. But that's going to keep going and keep going. So that whole process of identifying players that are going to fit how we want to play, but still coach them in the same way that we've been doing, we're just hoping they'll continue to progress us. And there's no guarantee in that, because like anything as a club, there's so many improvements we've still got to make. They're working really hard to try and get us better training facilities. I know that John has been working to try and again, he's really tried hard to get other facilities, and we'll continue to do that. So there's a lot of things going on, but it takes time. And I know fans hate hearing that, but probably at the start, it takes a bit of time. But you see now with performances and how we're playing, that even if you look at Falkirk away, honestly, I thought the boys were excellent, and unfortunately missed that penalty at the end. We should have got something for that game. The Livingston game, we made a couple of mistakes, but again, we should have won the game. The game in the Cup against Celtic, we should have won that. So I think the fans have seen that the performances have been really good, even if we're not winning every game. The ideal scenario is at the weekend, you perform well and you win. And that's not easy because you're playing against a lot of good teams with good managers. So, but I think there's just a lot of evidence on the pitch at the moment that things are going well, but we're still nowhere near where we want to be. I think the manager's got ambitions to really improve the group and improve the club a lot more, as we all do. I think even at the weekend, we were missing 6 players, which I don't think get noticed. Like Brad Halliday was coming in, Dunwell was missing, Clark was missing, Billy was missing, Ash was missing, Joe was missing. So with a lot of players not involved at the weekend, and again, that's a testament to how well we've actually done when you've got so many players that weren't involved out of our squad, that we've managed to go to Aberdeen and get a victory. And again, that's just doing hard work, and that's one thing I would say for the start. The amount of work that's went on from the manager to Scott Patterson, to Barry Nicholson, myself, all the support staff in here, they do put a lot of hard work in just to try and make sure the players are getting what they need. And then it's up to them to put the same work in, and Saturday gives you a little bit of a reward for doing that. But listen, we're not under no illusion. We've still got to continue to work hard and improve everything within the club.
In terms of David, can you explain? I mean, you obviously came in the summer as technical manager, which is a position which is quite new to Scottish football.
Yeah.
Can you explain that role?
They'd approached me because, obviously, we used to have a connection with Burnley quite a lot, and I think John and Gordon were looking for somebody to come in that could sit, that was going to make sure that players are getting developed, but also assist the manager, and then support in other areas. And I think with Gordon being technical director, you needed somebody to support underneath that I could go and do certain work for him when he's not always based here. And he's been brilliant, to be fair to him. You know, I think that it's important for the supporters to know that. He's been such a good support to the manager, to myself, that he does a lot of things that people probably don't see. The same as John Nelms does a lot of things that people don't see. So when they approached myself to come in, at the time I just was going to come in. I thought it was going to be with whoever the manager was, and then that changed. And then they went down that route to bring Steven in, because again, they felt with his experience of being a manager, but then working in development, they just felt that that was a good link of what they were trying to do. And myself, I would sit in this position to support him, to make sure that the players are getting developed, to support other staff within the building. And then as it's kind of developed, I then took over the recruitment, because I did think that we needed to improve that a lot. And then within that, we've obviously brought in more staff to try and support that side of things. So there's a lot of things involved in. I work quite closely with Tommy Young, your operations manager, just again with how we can bring everything together, whether it be renegotiating contracts for players or re-signing or stuff like that. So we're just trying to really structure things better. And I think, to be fair to John and Gordon, that was the idea. They wanted me to come in and try and help to do that. And again, listen, we're at very early stages of what we're trying to do, but there's definitely little steps that we're improving on, and we've just got to keep working hard to improve that moving forward.
Obviously spoke to the manager quite a lot over the course of the season, and he spoke about yourself. You spoke about Barry and Scott with the defenders and midfielders, yourself and the strikers. But the manager said a few times that you've taken individual players out to try and do one-on-ones to try and improve them individually and also for the benefit of the team, sort of thing. Do you get any good examples of that where you've seen the people really kick on? I'm sure quite a few have kicked on, but
yeah, I mean, they've all improved. I think one of the things I said quite openly was, look, with Ash came in the summer, and then Stephen said that, look, Ash has got great pace, Ashy, and I think that he's every day after training will do extra with Ash because he wants to do extra. And again, you've got to be careful sometimes that you're not increasing any risk of injury and stuff like that, but you want to do extra. And I think with the sports science guys, Alex, etc., we've managed to create something where we're doing we did afternoon sessions in the summer period when the weather was better. It's not that easy in rain-filled Dundee, to be honest, which was incredible the last couple of months, the amount of rain. We've been having to really go into Astro a lot or indoors a lot, which hasn't been ideal, but in the summertime, it was we were doing a lot of extra stuff on the pitch. Anyone from Scott would take the defenders back out, myself with the forwards, Barry with the midfielders, and then link it together, making sure the players that weren't maybe playing got extra. But as I say, Ash was a good example, because every day after training, working finishing, every day working his technical stuff, and that's why when he scored, particularly United goal, I said that to me, they have so much credit, the boy, because of how much work he's put in. Do you know what I mean? We're there to facilitate, to guide them and try and improve, but it's down to the player. And in the same token, Simon has done the same. When Simon has had an indifferent start of the season, he had a couple of injuries, but Simon being Simon, he'll play through it and he'll do everything for the team. So again, he does extra work. He's really trying to push, and then he's got back in the goals again. So they're two easy examples just because they work hard at trying to do their finishing. But then I would say the same about all the forward ones, like Cam Congreve always want to do extra, Tony want to do extra, the ones that I would work with mostly. But a lot of the players, it's just developing a culture. That's one of the things that the club wanted to have, what the manager wanted to have, and I definitely see that with the players. And it's not just on the pitch. We do a lot of work inside the building as well. You know, we do a lot of analysis with them. Early in the season, I did a lot more individual stuff, but we've now broken into more unit work. And even at the weekend there was so many positive things that we're really trying to attack the last line more. And I think Tony does brilliant for that with the penalty he gets, because it's something he doesn't do as much, attacking that last line. And that's come from the video work the analysts do that then we show the players. So there's so many examples, Scott, to be fair, where I think the players have been doing extra work on the pitch or extra work in the building, and then you're seeing the benefits of it.
Tony Egan, you spoke about there. I mean, obviously he's really lit up the place in recent weeks. We did an interview with him a couple of weeks ago, and I think he was in the early morning club, we call it.
Yeah.
And the manager they had basically told him he had to change his eating habits, and he said he had to ditch the chocolate and the biscuits and that. But it seems he said it certainly had an impact.
Yeah, he's some boys, Tony. He's he's got a brilliant personality, to be fair to him. Very funny lad. But he's as a young lad living up here himself, he just needed to improve some of his aspects, like his lifestyle. It just make sure he's eating a little bit better. So they put him into that early club to try and improve him. And to be fair, the manager said he should stay in it just to keep his fitness levels. And you see that with early in the season, Tony probably just didn't have the levels of fitness that you would want, so he wasn't really playing full games. And now if you look at him, he's improved his fitness. Again, another example of the culture that's been set in his work ethic to try and improve. And, and he's now bringing things that we want to try and get him to score, but he was in really good positions at the weekend to do that. Sometimes he hasn't been. And as he just making those runs through, which we get the penalty for, is another side of his development. But I think there's so much, again, even with that, the guys doing the work with him to get him fitter has actually helped him. So, yeah, whether he's left at the biscuits or not, I'm not sure. But I'm not 100% sure he has, but he's looking fitter, to be fair. So,
that's it. I mean, obviously, you can see a progress in a lot of the players right across the team. So I think at the opposite end of the park, Luke Graham obviously is grabbing a lot of headlines. Yeah. You had big interest for him in January and turned down significant offers. I think they were one of the last offers was a club record offer. So that shows you how highly people rate him and how highly probably you rate him as well, Dundee.
No, definitely. Listen, another example of somebody that's improved so much. Like, to be fair, when we came in the building, like Gordon and John said that they've got real high hopes for him. And even though he was like known to Falkirk, they generally thought he had a real massive side of potential. And I think when the team were really trying to find a way at the start of the season, like, we had to play a back three, and at times there was a time we had to play left back. But once it settled in, he was playing more in centre back of a four. He's just kicked on. I mean, his composure, his maturity, he can play football, he can defend. His development's incredible. I think obviously with the manager being a centre back, it's been a helpful for him. I think the work that Scott's done has been helpful for him. Biggest thing we look at is I just think he takes information on so well. But what we're saying a lot about, like, I remember when we played Command in the Cup, about he needs to step through more to commit. He did that. We actually scored a goal from it. He takes things on. You don't think he's the age that he is at times. And I think when clubs come in and put in really good bids, we have still been and still are in a fight to stay in the league. So if you're giving away your best players, I think there was really good conversations with John. Could easily have just took money, but didn't think it was right for the boy or for us at that time, because of the situation we're in and everything else, and just felt that we would be strong and keep him, and I think the money that we offered was very high, and I got to give John a lot of credit. Our opinion, myself, manager, was like, we don't let him go, we keep him in the building because we think for his own development and for our team, we needed him. And Luke has been absolutely magnificent dealing with that, because other players, you look at high-profile players that start kicking the fuss up, and he was magnificent. The amount of speculation around him before we played St Mirren and then Celtic, honestly, and that boy went out there, and his performances have been unbelievable, to be fair. So I can't give him enough credit for the way he conducts himself and how mature he is for his age. And listen, he'll go on and play at a really, really good level. It's just got to go at the right time for him and for us. And we generally think it was the right thing for him and for us that we didn't let him go at this period.
In terms of, he's obviously been linked with an interest from English Championship clubs. I'm not asking you, obviously you can't name names, but English Championship clubs in January, I think there's been some of the Rangers have certainly been watching him in recent weeks as well. Yep. So is it going to be a fight, do you think, come the end of the season to keep him?
I think so. I think, listen, at the end of the day, every player at some point has got to progress, whatever that may look like. And I think that I was a little bit surprised that the clubs in Scotland weren't really actively looking, but they probably were maybe more highlighted because there was a lot of interest from down south. And I say this, in the Championship, there was a club in particular really keen to get him. There was all various bits of interest, but again, it's got to be right for us at that time, and I don't think it was. And also for the boy, I generally think he could go into a really, really good level. I've been fortunate enough to work with some really talented young players in the past, like McGinn, who's at Villa, and Kenny McLean at Norwich, Lewis Morgan, who's at MLS, and I look at Luke and I just see so many similarities in the qualities that they possess, and I've said that to the boy. He's got such a, listen, he's still got to work hard, he's got to keep improving, he's got to keep looking after himself, and he could play at a very good level, that boy, he really could. And again, we've just got to wait till the summer. and see what comes. But I'd be gobsmacked if there's not a lot more interest in him, in my opinion. You know, knowing players and knowing the quality that Luke's got, I think there'll be a lot of interest in him.
The good thing is that, I mean, you'll probably get an excess of your club record fee for him when he does go.
Maybe, hopefully. I think as well, even for the start of the season, before there was any interest in him, we offered Luke a number of contracts. You know, we wanted to even extend it for longer. And again, it's up to his agent, like, to say, look, we want to do that, because I think they're always worried about you're trying to lock them in for too long. But that's not the case. We were just trying to look after him and stuff like that. And again, we would still do that with him. But the good thing is he's still got a length of contract. We're not going to, what's happened before, unfortunately, players move on and it goes to tribunals and stuff. It's not ideal. But I do think there'll be a lot of interest, and it's just up to then look, if there is a bid comes in that we think is right for him, then it's up to him to go and choose the right club which is right for him, you know. But again, I cannot give him so much credit. I think the supporters need to know that with all that stuff going on, he could easily have left here and, I don't know, made a lot more money than what he's on at Dundee, and that's not a criticism of us, it's just fact. And he never caused one problem, he never moaned, he just got on with it, you know. And granted that I'm sure that his representatives would like him to move and he can progress, but it's got to be the right time for everybody. But that lad, honestly, he just put his head down, he worked hard, and he kept playing the right way. And listen, he's still a young defender, and he's still going to have ups and downs. But yeah, I can't give him enough credit for how he's conducted himself.
Back in general terms, you obviously got that big one at Aberdeen, but it's got difficult. Well, they're all difficult games now, but you got a tough run of games coming up now as well, haven't you?
Yeah, there's a few. It's like people will tell you that when you go and play Livingston, and I know Marvin really well, and he's done a great job taking over in difficult circumstances there at Livingston. And everybody's saying, well, you've got to beat Livingston at home. And granted, we probably should have done because we went 2 up, but they've done well to come back in the game. And then when you looked at the games after Livingston, you're thinking, oh, I'm seeing people in general, they'll say, well, where are you going to get your points from? And I say the manager said that to the players, look, you've got to go and pick up a result that people don't expect you to get, like Aberdeen. And we've just got to keep with that mindset. You know, I think that in weeks to come, there's definitely going to be more players coming off the treatment table. So we're going to hopefully get a bit stronger again, I think, when you look at our bench and our squad. So we've just got to get in every game with the mindset that we do have to try and win. It's going to be a really difficult game against Hibs. David Gray's done a great job in there. And I think it'll be really tough. But listen, we'll get into the game and work really hard to try and get a result, because this league, as everybody says openly, you look at Livingston yesterday with Rangers, there are no easy games in this league, you know. And I think people might look at it a little bit differently now when they see what happened yesterday. Rangers drawn with Livingston down to 10 men. But last week, our draw against them, it's not the worst result. Granted that we wanted to win, and in our opinion, we should have won, but we didn't. But it's still, if you were to look at Livingston Aberdeen and you were going to take 4 points for the 2 games, you would take it, you know. So we just got to get in the next round of games and just keep on looking to try and keep improving these little bits that we do every week, and hopefully the boys can keep getting positive results that we need. The
manager caused a bit of a laugh in the press conference after the game at Pittodrie, and he described his team used the J word for his team. Yep. Then he think came in after it and said, well, he doesn't swear, so that's him swearing, that's when you know he's annoyed. But did that cause a wee bit of a laugh and a giggle in the bus back?
He used it for the start of the season, to be fair, because he's got a man of principles. Like there's maybe myself and other people that still swear at times, you know, but he uses the word jobby quite a lot and has done, which is quite humorous, you know what I mean? Particularly for a working class guy like myself that's heard certainly more stronger language in my life, you know. So it's been quite humorous. Like, there's definitely times he's used it across the season, and obviously a lot of the English boys don't know what that word means, so you've got to explain it to them. And the fact he's used it in the press, you know, it's quite funny, to be fair. But listen, it's a little bit of humour. I think that in fairness to him, as he doesn't swear, he tries not to swear, so he likes to use that word because it's a softer swear word, you know. Yeah, I'm sure the players, when they read that, seen the funny side to it, like we all did, you know. It's quite funny.
No, definitely. Just before we go, can I indulge you your back catalogue, David, and your journey in football?
Say that again? You broke up again.
Sorry, I broke up there. So can we just before we go, can we go back into your own back catalogue and
yeah.
Your career so far? I mean, obviously you mentioned before you came through St Mirren Academy where you had some decent players along the way. You mentioned Lewis Morgan, John McGinn, Kenny McLean, but there was a number of others than that. But you had a great time there, didn't you?
Oh, listen, it's funny, when we went back to St Mirren recently, I've got real fond memories of St Mirren, and like my dad and my nephew still go to the games, and my dad wasn't a St Mirren fan before I worked there, I can assure you. It's but he goes to the games, even like when St Mirren were in the final, like my mum, my dad, my two nephews, they all went to the final, which is great. It's like, I worked there that long, and obviously when I worked with Brian, my cousin at the time, like, he obviously from the director point of view, with Stuart Gilmore, etc., they backed up, and George Campbell, they actually backed us trying to have a good academy, and with so much success. I was really lucky to have some really good people to work with, you know. Back then, I think you had the three of them as like directors. Brian Caldwell was the CEO, and all very good in how they supported us trying to have an academy. And then I just did some really good stuff, to be fair. I still speak to a lot of them, and we worked really hard. Same principles I would have to this day. And I say through that time, the amount of players that we produced was ridiculous, you know. And it's just down to hard work. We had a really clear alignment in our academy about what we wanted to do, and yeah, it's just great to see. I spoke to John a couple of weeks ago because he'd been injured, and it's incredible what he's done in football, the same as what Kenny's done, which Lewis has done, and they're the kind of more kind of highlighted ones. But there's so many other players that are still playing at a decent level, you know. I went to the Wraith game the other night against St Johnstone, and you've got a couple of guys on the bench like Stevie Mallon, Big Jack Baird and stuff like that. Great lads, and they're still involved in football, and that goes across the board. We take a lot of pride, like all the guys that work with me, just to see how many players actually were produced for there. So no, it was brilliant. It was a really good time, and I think we had a lot of success for the hard work. And I say I was there a long time, to be fair. It seems like a different life. And then I went to America, come back, went to Shrewsbury, went to Burnley, and then obviously I've ended up at Dundee. So it's been good. But I like it here. Good people, which is the most important thing.
Does it give you? I mean, we all talk about the three headline names there. Yeah, McGinn, Kenny McLean's, Lewis Morgan's. How much pride does that see? I mean, we're obviously playing for their countries, but also playing for their countries in major finals, and the chances are that the three of them have got a right to a good chance of making Steve Clarke's squad for this World Cup finals this summer.
It's a little bit, I'll be honest, it's a little bit surreal sometimes. Like, you think of where we come from. Like I say, it's St Mirren, we didn't have any money. We worked really hard and just tried to work harder than anybody else. And when you look at the three, because the three boys made the Euros, it's incredible. Like, you know, it's like, if you think about from all coming from St Mirren Football Club, and the competition in Scotland's ferocious, you know. Like when I was there, and it still is, like Alan McManus been there now, it would be the same. Like, you're competing against your Rangers, your Celtic, and at that time you had Hamilton, Motherwell, Kilmarnock, Aberdeen. It's ferocious, the competition with players. So, and then you've got other clubs that then start to progress their academies, like Partick Thistle, etc. So yeah, I think we did a really good job. Again, it's down to the support we get for the club. But to see those boys making it like that, it's just it's mad when you think about it. You know, you've got John being a captain of a Premier League football club and second highest goal scorer for Scotland. It's ridiculous, you know, but he deserves all the credit he gets. He's a top person. He's such a good boy, do you know what I mean? Like, the whole family are. I've seen Steven recently, obviously, because he's at Falkirk doing well. Somebody else had signed at St Mirren, and then Paul, obviously, at Motherwell. They're a good family, and they've been well brought up, and I think that's testament to them. And then with Kenny playing at Norwich, being their captain, Lewis has had incredible moves. I mean, he's went into Miami, New York Red Bulls, now San Diego. It's incredible, you know. So he's just been a bit unlucky with injuries, Lewis, but nah, it's brilliant to see. But I still get as much satisfaction. I see other boys that were there, like Cam McPherson's now at Morton playing, another one that we had there, and there's so many other ones like that I think came through our academy at the time that are still playing football, and that's the most important thing. Obviously some at higher levels than others, but you know, it's really good. Even like Ethan Erhan, I've seen him a few times when I was down south. I had Ethan since he was about 4, and then he went to Lincoln, he's now at Bolton. So there's so many good examples, I think, that just shows you if you're the right alignment and the club support you, you can definitely bring players through. And I think that's what they've done at Dundee, to be fair. Like Stephen Wright with the Academy and Scott Robertson, they've got some really good people, and I think try to support them because they brought through some really, really good players. Luke Graham being the most relevant one at the moment.
In terms of how did it come about that you ended up in America yourself with New York Red Bulls from St Mirren? How did that come about?
I'd always had an ambition to work in America for some reason. So when I was in St Mirren, I was just thinking that I'd been there a long time, and I went over to America to one of the conventions, and I was approached with somebody. There was a job at Orlando at the time, so I went out there and I just spoke to the owner. That was the owner at the time, Phil Rollins. interviewed for that, and then got the job. It was a bit mad how it all came around. And then at Orlando, at the time, the ownership weren't really backing like the youth development side of it. So I got approached by New York Red Bulls to go there, and I met Jesse Marsch, which was an incredible experience because he is a top coach in person. So the opportunity to go there, I just thought was too hard to knock back. So I went there. Unfortunately, Jesse left and went over to Leipzig and Salzburg at that time. So the club wasn't the same as it was when he was there. And then I come back to the UK. So no, it was a great experience, you know. I really enjoyed it and met some really interesting people. And just being part of that Red Bulls methodology and profiling our players was a great experience for my development, to be honest.
When you come back to Shrewsbury, was that right?
Yeah. Well, Brian was there, obviously. And I come back just before COVID, which worked out quite well. And then when I went there, again, Brian, it gave me an opportunity there. And I wasn't that sure at the time, but I loved living there. It was a great club, to be fair. And then when Steve Cotterill came in, I went in with the first team staff with him and Aaron Wilbraham, and had a brilliant time. It was an amazing experience, that as well, to be honest. That Steve's a really, really good coach, to be fair. I learned so much from him as a coach. And then if you work with Albion, and he's had some really good success at Shrewsbury for the size of club. I mean, you look where they are now, it just shows you how good a job Steve did, along with supporting them, because, and then within the academy, we brought a lot of good players through, made a lot of money for the club, to be honest with you. And again, Shrewsbury wasn't exactly renowned for having a great academy, so there was a lot of good work done. And then I get the chance to go and work with Vincent Kompany at Burnley, which was, again, surreal when I got a phone call off of him. I went to Burnley, and I say the period I worked with him was incredible, just what I learned, again, under his tutelage.
See, we talk about Burnley there, but is it, Dundee had a partnership previously with Burnley. Is that still open? Is that still active?
It's not as formalised as it was previously, because they were helping a lot of stuff, but we still have a lot of contact with them, if that makes sense. I still speak to Paul Jenkins on a weekly basis, like he's the director of football there, and I still speak to Harry, who's one of the scouts that's down there. So we still have a good relationship with them. It's not as formalised as what it was originally, for what it was going to look like, but we still get a good relationship, and hence why I brought Joe Wesley up, and then the young boy Joe Bevan, who's obviously around about the first team, but will take a bit of time to develop. But Joe Wesley's somebody that's coming in, did really well. So they've been really good, the kind of connection we've had. So yeah, we've still got a relationship with them. At least it's not a kind of official in paper relationship, but a very good relationship in general. I say Paul Jenkins has been brilliant. Like, when I worked for him at Burnley, he was excellent to work with, and he's been great even coming in here as well. He's been very supportive of trying to help our club.
In terms of main partnerships as well, you've obviously got the one with Monterey as well, which has brought a few players in.
Yeah.
And obviously you brought the striker in the last window.
Yeah.
As well. I mean, how do you see that one working? Because obviously,
it's been, the guys over there are brilliant. I've had a few video calls with them. I think that with players come over before, but just didn't really think they fitted the profile that we need for the Scottish Premier League. And in fairness to Jack, who's John's son, they went over recently, and they had I had a couple of Zooms, I say, with them, and I said, look, the profile of player needs to be different for him to be able to play at this level, because Scottish Premier League's a hard league, and a lot of people, and I'm saying generalise, people in England as well, they underestimate the level up here, why a lot of them struggle. So they needed a bit more guidance on what do we need. So the boy Alda here had come over for a week before, and I thought he looked quite good. So they recommended him again. We looked at a lot of the video footage of him, and he's definitely improved. He's got stronger. He's a wonderful young person. You know, he's come in here, doesn't speak the language. We're doing a lot of work with him. He's got an English tutor now. He's only 18 years of age, but he's a very good player. He's physically got the characteristics you need for this league, but he's also got great abilities. So yeah, I just thought it was a really good, I try to have that really good partnership, but the players have got to fit our league. So that's something I think will progress. I spoke to their kind of technical director the other day, Adrian, and we've got a really good connection with them that we can hopefully build on through the years.
And as you said, then probably they sent across good players previously, but physically they were quite small, weren't they? Quite slight, some of the players. And as you said, it's really difficult, and the players can get lost, can't they?
Yeah, they just listen. You need to have athleticism in this league for me, because the Scottish Premier League's hard. It's always been hard league. You know, it's so intense and tough, and to deal with the intensity of the league, and I think a lot of boys don't realise how intense it is. So you need people that have got those
David, just finally, just can I ask, what are your hopes for the rest of the season?
Just to try and, I mean, honestly, at the start, because the way the squad was and because like big transition and everything else, we just wanted to make sure that we can stay in the league first and foremost. You know, I really mean that, like, and then try and build on it. And I think we've put ourselves in a good position to do that, and that's still the main aim, is we want to stay in the league. But the big thing in the short is just making sure that we win games of football and see development. And then what we've then got to do is make sure that we've got a good squad at the end of the season. Obviously, players are going to move on. We've already got a lot of plans in place at the moment, looking at players, trying to identify players so that we can then improve it for next season. And then hopefully we can then improve for there, you know. So it's just game by game, just try and keep winning games, try and keep getting good performances, keep trying to improve individuals. And hopefully we can keep doing that. It keeps us in the league, which is our main aim for day one. And it allows us a really good foundation to get into next season. But again, as the manager's openly said, that ain't easy to do that when you've got Kilmarnock improving, Livingston improving. I think you've always got to be looking over your shoulder and make sure that you keep improving. And I think that's been the mindset in here. And that's what we'll continue to do, to try and make sure the players go out and get us results.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, David. That's been a great insight into what's happening at Dundee and your own career so far. I'm sure all the viewers will appreciate that. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Thanks for your time. All the best for the rest of the season for you and Dundee. And
appreciate it, Scott.
Thanks to the viewers for joining us. And for all the latest sport and football news, please join us at thedalerecord.co.uk across all our platforms and social media, including X, Facebook, TikTok, and co. For all the latest news, keep up to date with them. Thank you very much for your time. Until the next time, thank you. All the best.